Shalom. For praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Arakak, Dash. Double honors unto the elder apostles of Greek Mills on the rule well. And shalom to the hopeful elect. This is Paya Allah. And today we have this scripture for you. This is Ecclesiasticus 38 and 24. The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that have little business shall become wise. Alright, so I'm gonna use AI from Google to basically go into some points of the scripture and just jump in and break it down when where necessary. So it says Ecclesiasticus 38 and 24, often referred to as Sirach 38 and 24 in modern translations, states that the true wisdom requires leisure of the absent or the absence of heavy daily business to study and contemplate. Right. So this is why when we come into this work, all right, with this word taking up the mantle of Yahweh of Yahweh Shai, all right, being part of the body of Yahweh Shai, we basically removed ourselves from the world, all right, and subject, took on the burden of Yahweh Shai, and in doing so, just created leisure, all right, or that should be that's definitely something that obviously you need your daily bread in order to survive and within this world. But only that's a hit you take, as you could say, for the sake of attaining wisdom. All right. So it says the verse emphasizes that intellectual wisdom and deep study are hard to achieve while occupied with intense physical labor such as farming or trade. Right, because when you deal with farming or a trade, look at our example of our forefather Jacob. You basically had to go into an apprenticeship for several years, 7 years, and then even throughout the course of that, there's a maintenance. Like once you get that, you've got your craft, you built up your you built up without, and now you have your own plot of land, your own, you know, um, business, for lack of a better word. Now you have to tend to it in order for it to thrive. You need to get the ball going, and that's something that you can't do within this faith. All right. I mean, there's brothers that obviously they may have been doing certain things prior to coming into the faith. They may have been established a certain way, whatever, whatnot. But the main point is that in order for you to attain wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you need to tend to it like it's your first priority, like it is your trade, like it is your farm. All right. Key takeaways and context. The context of wisdom. The verse introduces a passage that contrasts the lives of intellectual specialists, such as scribes, scholars, and sages, with lives of skilled craftsmen. All right. It's showing that basically they're both doing the same things but opposite ends of the spectrum. The requirement of leisure. The passage argues that one cannot become wise without having leisure time to dedicate to study, meditation, research, right? Because you need to apply yourself to supply. Anytime I say apply yourself, I'm going to say apply yourself to supply your wealth. That's just it. It's in my mind. That's it comes from bartender. But the point being is, yeah, you need to apply yourself. So, in the application of oneself, um, you basically need to be mindful of what you're studying and then go through not necessarily the motions, but go through it exhaustively to the point of understanding, right? One deep, not too deep. And then once that's accomplished, you actually need time to digest. I know with myself, in terms of studying, all right, anytime I study anything, I have to go over it several times. But then ultimately, in order to retain that information, it's more the time that I allow it to sit. It's likened to digesting food. You eat a meal, but it takes a process of time to basically understand what's being said. All right, so it says the role of the artisans. While the passage states that laborers, blacksmiths, potters, farmers cannot attain the same scholarly wisdom, it validates their work by saying without them a sea cannot be inhabited, and their prayers are in the practice of their trade. Right. So what they're doing is basically their glory. All right. And they attain wealth, riches, family, all those things. And that's for the benefit of that's as to what ends they're doing it for. But it's reflective also in the same way what we're doing, because we're doing it to a point, to with a means to an end, right, to attain wisdom. The pursuit of learning, the following verses 38, 25 to 34 and 39 describe the wise men traveling to other countries and searching out the wisdom of the ancients. So, just how, and this is where you draw the line and the difference between the two. One allows a city to thrive and to function, but with wisdom, it basically takes you, it broadens your horizons, as they say. All right, it takes you from your locality to globality. Right? You become global. You go to places where people can only imagine. All right, because that wisdom is basically driving you out to various destinations. Source citation: the verses found in the apocryphal book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach in the Old Testament, specifically within the section discussing roles and of labors, wisdom of the scribe. So only the point being, I'll read it again and close out. Sirach 38:24, the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure. Alright, and wisdom is a very specific thing as well. You have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Alright, it tells you in the book of Proverbs, the fourth chapter and the seventh verse, for all that getting, get understanding. Alright. So we have the knowledge of the Most High. You have to go through the scriptures, but in order to attain the understanding, that's the leisure. All right, you sitting with it and being, observing, and really, it's in sitting with it, it's experiencing it, and through that experience, it speaks of the experience of the Most High. I forget what scripture, I believe it's in Romans or in Sirach, but it speaks about the experience with the Most High, which ultimately leads to that of being wise, right? Wisdom. The gray hairs of the ancient. And he that have little business shall become wise. So in order for you to accomplish that task and get to that destination of wisdom, you basically need to take a step back and basically not be doing a lot of business intensive things. Just for example, when you look at the Lord, best example, he was a carpenter. He had to, and when in order for him to start his ministry, what did he do? Basically stopped doing that and then delve deep into the word and his ministry. So with that, I pray you're edified to the next one. Shalom.